Treasure Coast in Florida actually is located in the central part of the state, a little bit south of Fort Pierce to a little bit north of Sebastian. Covers an area of about 55 to 60 miles. And the way it got the name Treasure Coast is before they found the 1715 fleet, hundreds and thousands probably of coins were picked up on the beach. They were washing in constantly. A retired building contractor bought a Korean War metal detector, and he started picking up hundreds of coins. So he thought they must be washing in from wrecks offshore. So he started diving. Sure enough, he found the 1715 fleet. A lot of silver, a lot of gold, and today it's called the Treasure Coast. Shortly after Columbus's voyage of discovery, the Spanish started sending treasure fleets back to Spain. And they did that for more than 300 years. 300 years of treasure fleets going right past our little island here. And if the pirates didn't get them, sometimes the hurricanes did. There's nothing like the sound of silver. This is what it's all about.
There's one thing for sure, if you don't go out and look, you'll never find it.
Captain's rules.
The location of all sunken treasure is secret.
Navigational coordinates will not be shared.
Any clues regarding these locations are probably false. Periodically, Jack Haskins will discover treasure clues in his files. One such story was about a shrimp boat captain, who brought in some ballast rocks in his shrimp net. Shrimp boat captains these days use computers to run the boats, and anytime their nets snag into something, they mark these locations. They never want to hit them again. And that's why on shrimpers' hangs, what they call the hang book, there's a lot of very important clues concerning shipwrecks. There are some missing ships from the 1715 fleet, even though manifest-wise, they say, well, there's not much on them. Well, that may be, but in those days, smuggling was such a big business that even on the less important ships, at least the ones I know about, turns out there was a lot of smuggled money on board.
All of these artifacts came from the 1715 fleet. It's a fleet that in 1715 was considered a very high value treasure fleet. It had 14 million pesos in treasure on board. The Spanish were able to salvage about 80% of that 14 million. That's 1715 fleet.
Chasing down the shrimper's ballast stone story, Fizz and I head up to Florida's East Coast. First stop, the home of 1715 fleet diver Bob Frogfoot Weller. Maybe he has an idea where that stone came from.
There were 11 ships. We've found 6 of them so far. Haven't found 5, but we've been working the most important ships of the fleet, and that's where we get most of the gold from.
A lot of the coins.
He indicated that he really didn't know if it could be from the 1715 fleet or not, but he agrees that a ballast stone that comes up off the seafloor is definitely a good X marks the spot of where a Spanish galleon or a ship went down.
There's still a lot out there. No matter how hard and how long we look, there'll still be more out there.
When I was asking Bob about the missing ships from the 1715 fleet, he gave me a couple of really good clues. One is, one of the missing ship survivors was able to walk to St. Augustine, and because of a very prominent landmark, we know close to where they went down. That's going to be another site Gary and I are going to go take a look at. The other ship, they believed they were south, but they were not. Indeed, they were north of St. Augustine, because when the survivors started walking north, they walked into oblivion because they did not make St. Augustine. Never heard from again.
We now know at least one of the missing 1715 galleons wrecked north of St. Augustine, where the shrimper found the ballast stone.
The clues are all pointing in the right direction. I think it could be. We got a shot. The hangbook is actually a log that the shrimp boat captains keep, telling him where obstructions are on the bottom, things sticking up, old shipwrecks, and there's a lot of modern shipwrecks. But the good thing about the hangbooks is they usually notate any information in there, such as rocks. And rocks, of course, we're interested in. The shrimping community is kind of a close-knit community. I'm not going to say it's easy to get the numbers, but anybody who's friendly with the shrimp boat captains has access to the numbers.
Oh man. Hey. Oh man. Take it easy.
And once we treasure hunters get the numbers, then suddenly they're all ours, they become secret, and we really don't want to share them with anybody. These days they have GPS. Gary's really good at it. So I gave him the whole stack and said, let's read through these, and all the good clues we get, why don't you just plot them on one of our big charts, and then we'll go out and take a look.
So what I did with the document was I went back to see if there was any shrimp hangs in the area where we knew this shrimper to be. And lo and behold, we found some. Quite a few of them, as a matter of fact. And I took those numbers and put them in a program that I had that would correlate on a map where these shrimp hangs were. We knew basically the general area where the ballast stone was found, and then it was just quite a coincidence that these shrimp hangs were in that same general area. Wow, this looks really good.
So does this.
Yeah, I mean, the detail and everything.
Jack Haskins checked out the satellite pictures on the internet. Once again, it looks like wreckage. And as a final thing, I turned those numbers into a company that solely works with satellite imagery. And they checked them and they said, yes, there's definitely shipwreck material in this area. What's that little hand mean?
It's waving at you.
No, I've got an arrow.
Oh, come on, man. Quit looking at that. We've got some work to do here, okay? We got a big day tomorrow. I want to make sure we got everything down, okay, before we get out there. So putting all that together, we felt it was a good opportunity to go out and take a look at this area to see if we could actually find that ballast stone. Ballast stone were used for good 300 to 400 years. So at this point, do I know where the stones come from? No. Are they indigenous to the area? No. Did they come from a sailing ship? We believe yes. Could that sailing ship be Spanish? Possibly. Could that ship be carrying treasure? We're going to find out.
I think the difficulties on this particular dive will probably be poor visibility. From looking at the chart, I think we may be in a pretty busy area because we're fairly close to the mouth of an inlet. There should be a lot of boat traffic. We've decided to do it on a weekday rather than a weekend because weekends hundreds of boats going by, and obviously some of them would wonder, what are those guys doing there?
The hangs that we have here are basically from shrimp book hangs.
So we've chosen our coordinates, but this is no beginner's dive. I've lined up a few surprises to help us find the ballast, and hopefully the galleon it came from.
So an ROV is a remote operated vehicle. Usually an ROV also has a television camera on board, and also having a side scan sonar on this vehicle, it can actually sense out objects that are literally in the dark, in the murk down there. All this high-tech equipment for tomorrow. I mean, side scan sonar and the video ray. It's going to cut down a lot on our diving. This is kind of the first time we've used this kind of technology. I think it's going to really be productive.
All this high-tech equipment, and we just want to find some rocks.
Kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess. Well,
man, that's the way the game's played nowadays.
37 years, and finally we get to the point where we've got some good equipment.
Welcome to the 21st century.
You probably thought I didn't notice this, but what the heck is the other chair for?
Well, you'll see. I got a surprise for you.
You got a surprise for me.
So we got nice flat weather for tomorrow.
That is about as flat as that water gets, dude.
I can't wait to get wet tomorrow.
That's right. Hey! What?
Oh, here comes your surprise now.
What?
Dude!
Hey, John.
Nice office you got here.
How you doing, buddy?
You're gonna get me work done out here.
Yeah, the view's kind of mediocre.
I heard that you guys needed adult supervision.
One of us did.
To divers, John Chatterton is a living legend. As a commercial diver in New York City, he was diving below the World Trade Center on 9/11. His passion is exploring the deep shipwrecks of the world.
Thanks for coming. Looks
Cheers.
Cheers.
For
Cheers,
sure.
Fizz. So where are we going diving?
Well, we got some of these hang numbers here, John. This is the numbers that we got from those shrimpers.
Sure.
And I've taken them and put them into a program and posed them over to GPS, so that the captain on the boat can plug those right into his GPS, no problem.
Okay.
His knowledge and expertise is vital in what we're looking at, especially in a dark, scary environment, if you will, an underwater environment where you really can't see anything. Yeah, no, you brought some people down with you, some high-tech gear that we're going to use.
Well, I'm trying to bring you guys into the 20th century,
Yeah, we sure need the help there. I've been trying to drag
you know
them
what?
along.
It's just like the metal detector that Fizz has been using for years and years. It's just, another tool in our toolbox.
Yep.
So we've got the global leader in micro ROV technology, video ray. We've got a marine sonic side scan sonar. So we're going to work with acoustic imaging on the bottom and try and see if we can literally see what's down there, both with video and using acoustics.
Gee, what a time saver.
I've known Gary for years, Fizz. These guys are the real deal, and the thing I love most about them is their genuine enthusiasm for diving, their enthusiasm for hunting for shipwrecks. And in my book, there's nothing more fun than that. So they're fun guys. Nothing better for me than to come and look for shipwrecks with my friends.
You guys know fully well that it is what it is out there. You can't find something if you're looking in the wrong place.
Right.
But you can look at an area, figure out if there's anything there that interests you, and if not, move on as soon as possible. And that's what this technology will help us do.
Well, again, John, appreciate it, man.
Oh,
Thanks
man.
a lot, buddy.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, we
It was
look
all
forward to
rainy
it.
by my house, so I had to go someplace.
Well, welcome to beautiful Florida.
Yeah, this is great, man.
Better than
nice.
up north, I think.
Yeah. Now, can you guys help me with my luggage?
He can.
He's right on it.
I've got a hangnail. What's
All
the
right.
surprise?
There's another cold beer in here.
I'll have it.
When Treasure Divers continues, one of the world's most accomplished and best-known wreck divers, John Chatterton, lends a high-tech hand in our search for the missing galleon.
diving partners and I spent 6 years working to identify a German U-boat off the coast of New Jersey. Rob Curson turned that experience into a best-selling book, Shadow Divers. I also had the opportunity to work on a successful television series, Deep Sea Detectives. And now I'm executive producing programs. I've done 2 shows on Titanic. You know, every day for me, when I wake up, I can't wait to go to work.
So here we are, somewhere off Florida's northeast coast, getting ready to deploy state-of-the-art dive technology in search of a missing galleon from the 1715 fleet.
You're not giving up next week.
And we're working with one of the best in the business, deep sea detective and shadow diver John Chatterton.
Knowing John was involved with a lot of the high-tech equipment and some of the diving he's done, I gave him a call and asked him if he may know of anybody that has an ROV that we could use in diving this site. And right away knew that, yep, he says, I got a company that will help us out, no problem at all. They look like toys. We're here with Captain Dan going out on this 46-foot Newton. We're basically going to head offshore and look at some of the areas using side scan sonar technology to identify some of the hang hits that we've pulled out of this Tremper hang book. The side scan will give us a clear picture of what's on the bottom.
I'm supposed to be helping load the boat, but I figure I carried my share, and the young guys are stronger than me anyway. This is a beach area right here. There's been traffic on this river for hundreds of years. I could not pass up the opportunity, especially at low tide, just to take a quick look around. You never know what you might pick up.
I think with our side scan sonar, what we need to do is we'll get on the hang and make some passes back and forth, like mowing the lawn.
Okay.
And we need to kind of have a nice, straight, slow run at about 3 knots or so. And it's very important we go straight, because any movement of the boat will translate in curve images.
Kind of look at one hang then and kind of get around that area and set it up there.
And move on to the next one.
Move on to the next one.
Knock them out and do a couple runs on either side of it.
Starting this one here first.
Narrowing down the dives is a 2-step process. First, we drop the side scan sonar. Anything piques our interest, we send down the ROV.
So basically, after we get through doing the side scan, then we can look at the anomalies on the screen and go back, with the video array ROV, take a look at it before we even get in the water.
Right.
The video array is a remotely operated vehicle. It's easy to deploy. Basically what it has is a forward-facing camera. It's 570 lines of high-resolution color. A rear-facing black and white camera. In the back has a vertical thruster here. 2 horizontal thrusters in the back. That's going to allow it to travel like this and up and down. Now, this video array also has a sonar. This is going to let us see things that we can't necessarily see with the camera through acoustic noises. And we also have a manipulator on here. We can actually retrieve things with this, or we can actually grab onto something and let divers follow the line down. All controlled via a tether, topside, to a control box. It's a lot like playing a video game. If it's down there, we'll see it.
Being able to hook up with John Chatterton and have him help us get Video Ray involved in this was sort of like a lifesaver, and it's going to help with the safety, and it's going to help with identification and hopefully a quick find of this ballast pile site.
I've had tremendous opportunity both in working for television and in diving.
I gotta have a direction. I gotta have a goal. For me, that's a big part of the fun of diving. Trying to reach my goal, achieve my objective, overcome obstacles, challenging myself. That's why I keep getting suited up and I keep getting in the water.
I'm going to have him bring this up here.
Today we're going to be testing out the equipment, the ROVs, on these hang numbers. Now, there's a bunch of them, so I think some of them are going to turn out to be good and some of them aren't. Then, of course, tomorrow we'll dive and see what they are. The odds on this being a galleon, I don't know. They're probably slim, as in most cases. There's thousands of shipwrecks, thousands of documented shipwrecks. A lot of them had round river rock ballast, which is what we have here. Anyway, we are north of St. Augustine. We got ballast rocks, we got satellite pictures, we've got the Shrimper Captain, and I wish there were one or two other clues. And we may get those clues from the ROV or from one of our dives. Everything is pointing in a good way for us.
This is where the first coordinate is. It looks like it's we're right over it.
Okay, so we'll get the GPS hooked up. That tells us where we are all the time, so we can go back and find the target later. Towfish is a device that carry the transducers through the water. The transducers project the sound out. It's sending a signal out and waiting for the return. And it takes that sound and then the computer translates that sound into images by reflections.
You ready?
The biggest advantage of all this stuff is that it's extremely mobile. It's extremely easy to deploy. A couple of guys can load the equipment, you can travel with it, and then when you got to splash it in the water, you can do it off a boat. You know, we got a lot of boat here for the equipment we're putting in the water.
Yeah, we want to cruise about 3 knots. That's our perfect speed. A little faster, a little slower is not a problem. 3 knots is perfect. If we're pinging 131 feet to the side, we want to be about 10% of that off the bottom. So we want to be about 13 feet off the bottom, which is just about, from experience, I know we're about that distance now. This is the bottom. The middle area is what we call the water column. Now we're getting this stuff right here. This is surface noise and stuff, but the actual bottom is right here, what we call the first bottom return. And we're pinging out on either side.
Do you have a transducer built into that head?
2 of them. One on the left side, one on the right side, so that we can cover both areas. Now we can look at just one side if we choose to, but when you're searching, you can cover a bigger area by going both sides. Yeah. And then what we do, we set up our pattern, we call it mowing the lawn. So we set our pattern up so that we keep going back and forth, just like you would cutting your grass. A little bit of overlap each time, so that we're covering a fairly large area.
If it's not flat calm like this, you can't really maintain a nice level tow, and if you can't do that, you're not going to see anything. We as divers never get to see a wreck in the way that we could see it with the side scan, and it's a very visual image that really speaks to us and lets us know what's down there, and then we can make whatever plans we need to, whether it's something we want to investigate further or not. How are you saving all of this digital information?
It saves it automatically onto the computer. There's a hard drive in here, and it saves it as short files by date and timestamp. So it's very easy to go back and retrieve them, and we have a review program to go through them. Hey, I got a hit here. You might want to look at the target.
Hey, Gary, you got something?
Yeah, we got us a hit here out a ways. It's a fairly good size something. It's oblong. It's about 5 feet long, about 1.5 feet off the bottom. You can measure that shadow, and it looks like it's about 1.5 feet off the bottom.
What do you make out of the shape?
Kind of
looks round.
Yeah, it's kind of oblong. What it looks like. It looks too symmetrical to be a rock or something out of nature. It looks like something man-made. Yeah.
So this might be a good object to drop the video ray, the ROV down on.
We can drop the video ray down, let the video ray use the sonar and go right to it. It'll save us a lot of time.
Fish is on!
Focus working. Thruster test. Ready for splash.
Almost 40 feet. Okay, I'm on the bottom here. Look at that. Okay, there. The sediment. Well, there's no viz to speak of. We're having a hard time seeing the end of our gripper. There's a real strong bottom current.
stirring up
Yeah.
the bottom?
Yeah, very strong. And the bottom's like muck. When we get down into it, you'll see it's just like real fine muck coming out of the river. So visibility is just zero. See it?
Straight ahead, 9 feet.
Yeah, I'm bumping into it. I'll go right and bump into it. Just a rock. Looks like a stone, a fairly large stone of some type, but it's kind of squared off like it might have been quarried or something. See, it has square, flat edges, which is unusual for a natural rock. Oh, okay, we're losing it. Kind of off the edge of it now. That's about the best we're going to get out of it. There's a current, you know, if you dive, you'll hit it at about 25 feet, and then it stops at about 40 feet. And in that current, I can't maintain a heading. It either swirls me or sends me north. So we must have a current coming out from the river and a tide trying to get in and a wind blowing a third way, so we're getting a vortex.
What this tells us is that if we tried to put a diver in the water and tried to find something in 4 inches of visibility, we'd be here all day. And ultimately, the target that we were specifically looking for was a rock anyway,
Right. It's
so
not
we
working.
could have lost the whole day.
Right.
Now we've expended a minimal amount of time. We've got a video picture of what the target is. It's not what we're looking for, and we can move on with the search.
When you said it looked like it might have been quarried there for a second, I thought maybe, but you know, there's nothing like that on
Not
any
yet.
Spanish boats
Yeah,
that I know of.
This is about a 7-foot long rock. Looks like about 2.5 to 3 feet wide and high, and one end looked like it had been quarried.
You know what I'll bet that is? I'll bet when they were barging that jetty crap in, one of them
Wow.
fell off.
Damn it, that's what it is.
That is what
That
it is.
exactly the size
Yeah.
and the shape on that damn jetty out
Now
there.
remember this, if you want to know, ask Fizz.
Ready to deploy. We found there was a real heavy current in there. Visibility wasn't that great, so what we want to do now is go ahead and kind of complete our side scan sonar search by doing some searching further offshore where the water may be a little cleaner, maybe a little bit deeper. We're on the bottom, right the bottom.
So far, not so good, but we got a lot of area to cover. That big rock we saw told me one thing. It's been laying there for years and it's not buried. So chances are good that the targets we're looking for aren't either.
Slow down. We needed about 3 knots. The bottom is definitely different than the first bottom we were looking at.
Mark the spot.
He did.
It's a barge or a ship or something, an old boat. We can see ribs and stuff from the structure, and you can see the outline of the structure, but it's kind of squarish on the end, so it looks like it could be a barge. So we won't know until we ground truth and investigate a little bit more.
Sonar's working, ready for splash.
Okay.
By the time we gear up to get a closer look, the current is swirling and the visibility is closing in.
Look at that current going by that thing. I mean, but it's not constant one direction. It just keeps surging back and forth. Yeah. So that's what you're going to be up against. Same as before, about 4 or 5 inches of visibility and a current with a surge.
We're working just off the north part of Florida's Treasure Coast with deep diving legend John Chatterton in search of ballast from a shipwreck discovered by a local shrimper.
Ready for splash.
We're going to work with acoustic imaging on the bottom and try and see if we can literally see what's down there, both with video and using acoustics.
Fish is on.
Sonar's working.
Good to go.
Using the cutting edge in underwater exploration, we can see what lies below before we splash.
Right in the bottom. Mark the spot.
The clues are all pointing in the right direction. I think it could be. We got a shot.
Tomorrow we'll get wet, but tonight we're going to find out more about this storied coast, rich with treasure, history, and lore.
No matter where you go around the coast of where treasure fleets were, where Spanish may have been, you're going to have stories of pirates. You're going to have stories of Spanish galleon. You're going to have stories of gold and silver and treasure. That's just part of Florida's history, and some of the stories are even true.
This place is extremely haunted.
Gentlemen, we're meeting here tonight in John King's haunted house. I hope that the atmosphere here will bring y'all better hunting on your treasure runs here. Mr. King, at one time, had found a treasure here and seemed to have lived off this treasure for quite a long time. Folks said that he had a treasure map of some kind that he had found in this house, that maybe sailors or pirates from the old days, because this used to be a boarding house for the scallywags of the earth, supposedly.
As the story goes, he found Spanish treasure.
The spirits will
So we decided we were going to go over and question some of the local people. You got one spooky house here. The haunted house owner named Al knew Mel Fisher, and Mel was up here years ago, and they actually found some coins before the state shut them down. And they were identical to the 1715 coins. I met this other guy years ago in the Keys, and he found in the same area coins identical to the ones I had from the 1715 fleet. So everything's pointing to one of those missing boats being in this area. The haunted house owner, Al, of all places to get a tip, but it was a good tip. Stop doing that.
What?
The rocking, is it? Did you see Psycho?
Oh, yeah, I did. Okay.
How long do you think we have to stay here?
I don't know. Not too much longer. How long you want to stay? I'm getting a little thirsty.
I'm getting thirsty. There's a bar across the street. Maybe Mr. King's over there.
Probably is. Well, let's go.
Last man down buys.
You know, you never know what you're going to find whenever you go out and look. You may find something, you may not. But it's like I've always said, there's one thing for sure. If you don't go out and look, you'll never find it. So that's what we're doing. We're going to go out and look, and hopefully we'll find this one.
There's so much shipwreck material, it's almost unbelievable. I believe we could jump in anywhere along the whole coastline and find some type of shipwreck material. Galleon-wise, slim, but a shot.
Heading back to where we left off, Captain Dan spots something on his depth finder.
Looks like there might be an object on the bottom here that we might need to take a look at.
Okay, we're ready to go. Ready to drop it.
Once we agreed that it was a target worth checking out, we deployed the video array to find the target.
I like all this high-tech stuff. I've never used it before, and I'm starting to enjoy it. However, there got to come a time when you get that handheld metal detector. That's your basic tool. Get in the water and start looking.
it's definitely man-made. It's not a rock. It's got some very narrow, sharp points and looks like steel. It's kind of bowed. It could be, part of a hull. If you're going to jump on it, then what we can do is lead the video ray, and you can follow the tether right to it.
That's great.
Seems to be steel wreckage, most likely modern. The video ray tells us there's something there, and I'd hate to leave here without knowing for sure what it is.
It was quite murky down there, so deploying the ROV and locating the object was really a good thing for us, for the divers. It really helps see what the conditions are before we get down there. We noticed that there was a little bit of a current, so we had to account for some of that. We decided to go straight down to the bottom and kind of hover along the bottom, which turned out to be a real good move because the current was a lot less down there.
Our first dive is part of a modern wreck, so we document it, cross it off the list, and move on. Plenty of time to go back to our shrimp hangs in search of a ballast pile and a sunken galleon, missing for almost 300 years. Next, we're first to hit on something really big, but not everyone wants us to dive it. Treasure divers will be right back. Making the most of a decent weather day and our last with the ROV, we cruise through our plotted hits in search of any sign of shipwreck or ballast pile.
With this towfish, because we're shooting a very high frequency, it has a fairly low range. But we gain so much more information by using a high frequency, we can give up some range for that.
As we were looking at those hangs, going from one point to another, we came across a very interesting target. It looked like a ship. So we side scanned that again, got a great picture of it. We decided to deploy the ROV. After a little bit of effort, not much at all, they found the ship down there.
Yeah, the location of where they found this wreck is in about 45 feet of water. It's right near a wreck that's already documented on the chart. Nobody knows what it is either.
We wanted to anchor up nearby. We didn't want to grapple into the wreck, possibly damage it. So we dropped anchor within 100 feet or so. Then we actually located the wreck on the bottom with the video ray. The divers are then able to follow the tether down to the bottom, across to the wreck. Certainly it is a very low impact way to explore the wreck.
I'll leave the high-tech boys do their thing. It's 37 years of doing this. Now I'm the oldest guy on the boat. Oh well, as soon as they're ready, I'll go down and check it out with a handheld metal detector. If I live that long.
On the bottom we had a steel or iron-hulled modern era vessel. It had a 3-bladed propeller that was about 6 foot in diameter. The wreck was about 20 foot abeam, less than 100 feet in length. Looked like it had been down there for a while. Couldn't really tell whether it was a welded or riveted hull. It's possible that it was even steam driven, but only because we didn't find a big block or something like that if it was a diesel engine.
It was a very interesting wreck, one that looked like it had a wooden deck before, but that was all gone. The lower parts of the holding area were all full of sand. It had some nice aquatic life on it. Doesn't look like it's ever been dove on before because there was a lot of pristine corals on the wreck, and it was pretty exciting. No gold or silver, no ballast stone, but still one heck of a find.
I took my knife out and scraped a little bit of the propeller to determine whether it was made out of iron or what it was bronze. And one of the 3 blades on the propeller is actually bent over a little bit on the end. So I think that probably happened during the sinking, but it's hard to tell without really spending more time down there on the wreck. But I think this was a great little wreck. We learned quite a bit about it in a very short amount of time.
The props were still there. The one prop was about a 6-foot prop, bronze prop sitting in the back. That told us that nobody else had really been on that wreck, because if somebody else knew about it, that bronze prop would be gone and be sold.
On the inside, the wreck was largely open. It's been down there for quite a while, so we've
been on that wreck because if somebody else knew about it, that bronze prop would be gone and be sold.
On the inside, the wreck was largely open. It's been down there for quite a while, so we could swim and pass through just about anywhere, except up in the bow, in the forepeak, there was a good-sized Goliath grouper living up there. He was somewhat agitated that we were invading his territory.
As I looked up in there with my light, I saw a big object move, and I thought it might be a Goliath grouper. So the video array happened to be right next to me, the little ROV. And these guys had said, if you see anything that you don't want to go up in there, he says, go ahead and just kind of grab the ROV and shove it up in there, which I did. And as it started going up in there, you started hearing the barking of this Goliath grouper.
One time I was in a big hole in a dark place, and all of a sudden, right in my ear started going boom, boom, boom. I ran out. This one was really agitated, and I could hear it all the way over to our dive boat when I jumped in the water.
It sounds like somebody beating on the wreck with a sledgehammer. You can't help but notice it. The vibration literally goes through the water and right through your body. He was a little bit upset.
There's no doubt what it is. It's a one ticked off Goliath grouper. I thought he might try to eat the ROV, to be honest with you. I'd guesstimate that fish to be maybe 200 pounds. I'm glad that ROV was around to let it take that instead of John or myself.
We gave him as wide a berth as we could. The ROV came back to the surface, and the Goliath grouper is glad to have his home back to himself.
Well, as you know, we were here looking for one of the ballasted wrecks, the older wrecks, and in the process, using all this high-tech equipment, we kind of went over top of another wreck that's more modern for sure, but on taking a look at it, it'd be pretty tough to date it. It's certainly encrusted, it's certainly been sitting there a long time. Recently, a friend of mine came by my house, and he had found 3 gold coins on a wreck. He said it was 20 miles offshore into the Gulf, and he sold them for $135,000. And I said, well, they must have been like royals, Spanish royals. He said, no, they were U.S. coins. And he said they were from the Dahlonega Mint, Dahlonega, Georgia. So right away I get on the internet. The Dahlonega Mint was open from 1848 to 1860, and they only made gold coins, and they made thousands of them. A lot of them are unaccounted for, and they are all valuable. So now I'm thinking, why not look at these more modern wrecks, but still it's old. This thing's probably been down 75 to 100 years, maybe, somewhere in there. That would place it where they could have a few gold pieces on board. Find one nice Dahlonega Mint, you just kind of hit the small jackpot. So that's why I like to look at these. No ballast rocks here, but doesn't mean there wasn't any treasure on a wreck of this vintage.
The whole wreck was interesting. It was an exciting find. This is what this is all about. It's all in the hunt, and then going down there and discovering something that probably hasn't been looked at since it went down. It's not really the ballast stone that we were looking for, but it proves the technology that the side scan coupled along with the ROV is an invaluable tool for us divers. You never know what you're going to find down there, but I bet you there'll be some good surprises come out of that one.
Well, on this mission, I would have to say it pretty much wrapped up about like every other mission. We had some good news, we had some bad news, and we had some no news. On the good side, we found one interesting wreck. It wasn't the one we set out for, but as it was, we did find a site. I think it's going to produce some interesting surprises.
Ready for splash.
On the good side, hooking up with the high-tech people, the ROV and the side scan, it's just amazing to watch that work. I can't imagine what it's going to be like 5 years from now. He just brought a whole new element into it. This guy is about the most gung-ho diver I've ever seen in my life. I spent 37 years diving, but mostly shallow. Deepest I've ever worked was 140 feet, and I felt uncomfortable doing that. But here comes John. He dives hundreds of feet and doesn't think anything about it. We had a combination of things that made me believe it was worth taking the shot for. Satellite imagery, and that's great. I know that it works. I've seen it work before. and the shrimp hangs, the numbers from the shrimpers, all pointed in the right direction. We didn't get to check most of our numbers, and we're just going to have to try it again when we regroup. But then again, you know, if it came in a bottle, everybody would have it. Of course, we didn't find the treasure. It doesn't mean it's not here. It just means that on the few days that we put in, we didn't find it. We've got a lot more numbers here that need to be looked at, and we're certainly going to do it.
Hey, dude, that was a hell of an adventure, huh?
One more adventure.
Well, you know, we didn't find that ballast pile, but we did discover that 100-foot freighter.
Yeah, that thing's old enough to have a few surprises. In fact, I'm sure it does.
Well, that bronze prop on there was probably worth about $3,000. We know that if people knew where that thing was, they'd already cut that prop off there.
Well, that's going to be in somebody's yard in about 6, 7, 8 weeks.
You know, if somebody gets down there and starts pumping all that sand out of there, I bet you there'll be, like you said, there's a few surprises down there.
But you done good getting John and those high-tech electronic people up here. That was a surprise.
Well, without that stuff, we would have never found that 100-foot freighter.
No way, no way. That's one little speck out in the middle of the ocean, and that thing sure homed in it. Plus, saved all that time by sending the machine down rather than getting suited up and jumping in. I like that.
Yeah, from a safety standpoint, that's the way to go.
Absolutely.
Well, you know, Fizz and I have been working pretty hard, and I think we need to regroup and look at what some of the sites that we have next on the list, but man, I think we need a vacation.
But I'm not ready to give up. You know, we only checked about half of those numbers.
Yeah. Well, the visibility out there was really bad. I mean, 5-inch visibility, you know, that wasn't really great.
You could see 5 inches?
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Man, look at this nice clear water here. Why can't we go someplace and dive in water like this?
You could dive right here. I'll throw some nickels and dimes in. Never mind. Let's go to the Bahamas.
Fizz is talking about some places to go, and I think we're probably looking at going over to Bahamas, maybe over to Bimini, dive in some nice, clean, clear water over there. We also have a possibility of meeting with the Minister of Recs in that area. So that would be a little business with pleasure, but getting over there, relaxing, and kind of working on our plan going forward.
I like the Bahamas.
Hey, I do too, yeah. Great place.
Jack told me about a couple of wrecks over near Bimini.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that's not far from home. Gary and I have decided we're going to take a little vacation. I guess we'll go to the Bahamas, where visibility is like at least 100 feet everywhere. Some places more than that. Some of those places you can stand on the boat and see the bottom way down there. So there'd be nothing like a nice relaxing vacation in the Bahamas, treasure hunting on some of those wrecks. Yeah.
Well, when can we get together and go down there?
What time is it? Let's go next week.
Sounds like a plan to me, man. Cool.
I'm gonna have another beer.
I'm gonna have another rum. Kick back and relax a little bit.
Yeah.
It was a rough week, man.
Okay, listen, that was really, really good, Gary. I want to do it one more time. This time, try not to suck as much, okay?